All right, let's talk about a book that isn't just about seller, it's a straight-up cultural phenomenon. Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us has absolutely taken over, and it sparked so much conversation because it dives headfirst into an incredibly tough subject with a kind of honesty that's, well, it's kind of breathtaking. So let's get into it and deconstruct this really powerful story. Right from the jump, we're hit with this question. It's the one that always comes up in conversations about domestic abuse, and it is the absolute heart of this book. From the outside looking in, it seems so simple, right? But as this story shows us, the answer is anything but. We're going to see exactly how the book unpacks that question. And this quote from the synopsis, man, it just perfectly captures that central, painful paradox, how love and hurt can exist in the exact same space. It really sets the stage for a story that is as heartbreaking as it is eye-opening. So let's begin. So, every story's got a beginning, and this one, it kicks off like a modern-day fairy tale. We meet our main character right as her life seems to be falling into place. And she's just met a guy who seems, well, almost too good to be true. Okay, so let's meet Lily Bloom. She is ambitious, she is driven, she's left her small town behind to make it big in Boston, and she has this dream of opening a really cool, unique flower shop. But underneath all of that ambition, she's hiding a pretty painful family history, a past that was really defined by witnessing abuse. And then Ryle Kincaid enters the picture. And this guy, he is a walking contradiction. On the one hand, he is brilliant, confident, a totally charming neurosurgeon, the whole package. But on the other hand, the red flags are there from the very beginning. He's stubborn, he's arrogant, he hates the idea of relationships, and he's got this temper that's just simmering right under the surface. Get this is one of the first things he tells her. They're playing a game of naked truths on a rooftop. He's laying it all out there. But despite that, their connection is just electric. And so begins this whirlwind romance where Lily, of course, becomes the one exception to all his rules, which only makes her feel even more special, you know? But that perfect fairy tale beginning, it doesn't last. It soon gives way to a devastating new reality. The whole thing starts to unravel with one single shocking moment that completely changes their relationship forever. It happens in the kitchen. It's almost mundane. Ryle accidentally burns his hand on a casserole dish. Lily kinda laughs, and in a flash of pure anger, he shoves her so hard she falls and hits her head. The suddenness of it is just as shocking to her as it is to us reading it. And what happens immediately after? Deep, profound remorse. Ryle is horrified by what he's done, and his apology feels so real, so genuine, that Lily is convinced it was just a one-time thing, a terrible mistake. And right there, that's the first turn of a very dangerous cycle. But that's the question that starts to haunt her, isn't it? His promise is built on this very fragile hope that it was just a freak accident, a single loss of control. But what happens when the pattern starts to repeat itself? You see, this trap she finds herself in, it actually has a name. It's the cycle of abuse. It is a known, clinical pattern. First, tension builds. Then, the abusive incident happens. And it's always followed by this honeymoon phase, full of intense apologies and promises that make the victim believe, okay, this time things will actually change. And for Lily, this cycle feels terrifyingly familiar. To really understand why she stays, why it's so complicated for her, we've got to look back at where she came from. Here's the tragic irony. Lily has seen this exact behavior before. The tension, the violence, the apologies. That was the soundtrack to her childhood. She spent her whole life judging her mother for staying, always asking herself that same question. Why doesn't she just leave? And now she's starting to understand. So as a teenager, Lily used to write everything down in these diaries she addressed to Ellen DeGeneres. And it's in these diaries that we meet Atlas Corrigan, a homeless teen she secretly helped, who was living in the abandoned house behind hers. They shared this really gentle, beautiful first love before he had to leave, promising he'd find her again someday. Atlas becomes her protector, her safe place. He references the movie Finding Nemo and tells her to just keep swimming through all the hard things in her life. This becomes her mantra. It represents a kind of love that's all about support and survival, a total stark contrast to what she finds with Ryle. Okay, so this brings us to the climax of the story. This is where the past and the present are about to collide, forcing Lily to make an absolutely impossible choice that's going to define not just her own future, but the future of the next generation too. The cycle with Ryle just keeps getting more and more intense. He finds Atlas's phone number and he pushes her down the stairs. It gets even worse when he finds her old diaries about Atlas. And then, fueled by jealousy and alcohol, he unleashes this final brutal assault. After this final attack, as she's lying there, completely broken, she realizes there is now one thing, one single reason that changes everything. A reason so powerful that it finally gives her the strength she needs to break the pattern she swore to herself she would never, ever repeat. She's pregnant. And in that one moment, it's not about her anymore. She realized she could probably find excuses for herself. She could rationalize staying for love. But raise her daughter in the same house she grew up in, watching her own mother be abused? Absolutely not. That was the line. And this is the question she eventually asks Ryle. It is the checkmate. It forces him to see what he's done not through his own eyes, but through the eyes of a father. And his answer, that he'd tell their daughter to leave him, that's what finally ends it all. And right there, that's where the title of the book gets its meaning. By choosing to leave, Lily isn't just saving herself. She is stopping the trauma dead in its tracks. The generational cycle of abuse that started with her parents, the one she almost got trapped in, she decides it ends right here. It ends with us. What makes this story so unbelievably resonant is its connection to reality. In the author's note, Colleen Hoover reveals that the book was inspired by her own mother, who finally left an abusive relationship. And she ends that note by telling her mom, "I want to be like you when I grow up," completely reframing her mother not as someone who was weak for staying, but as someone who is incredibly strong for leaving. And that's what we're left with, this final thought. The book completely challenges our ideas of what bravery looks like. It suggests that maybe, sometimes, bravery isn't about never falling down. Maybe it's about finding that one reason you need to finally get back up and stay up for good. Thanks so much for joining me.